I tell people it was a lot easier to be in medical school than it was to dance. Dancing was physically challenging, it was mentally challenging. There was all of that performance, and it was such a wonderful thing just to be able to sit in the class and relax, and all I had to do was memorize stuff.
Welcome to Executives Unplugged. I'm Keith Cowing, executive coach to CEOs and product leaders, and I'm here to help you learn from the best leaders and thinkers to improve your judgment, your leadership, and your ability to navigate crazy times. With me today is Dr. Susan Lovelle. She spent 17 years as a professional ballet dancer in New York City. She then reinvented herself and became a plastic surgeon and ran a successful practice. Now she's a lifestyle coach and the founder and CEO of Balanced Performance. Also with me is Tonya Sook. Tonya is a certified family nurse practitioner with specialties spanning medical aesthetics, bioidentical hormone replacement therapy, dermatology, and functional medicine. Tonya is dedicated to helping patients look and feel their best, inside and out. She has also spent years working with Dr. Susan. We explore how to look for skills over experience when assessing talent, how to reinvent yourself, and how to align your team. Let's jump in. Susan, Tanya, welcome to the show.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much.
Thank you for joining me. And Susan, we met a little while ago, and there were a couple different topics that brought us together. Part of it is performance coaching and lifestyle coaching. Also, part of it was how do you build teams? How do you pull people together? And so
Mhm.
I wanted to start with how you hire people at a plastic surgery practice, what you look for, how you assess those skills. Can you walk us through that?
Oh, absolutely. So I think the thing that makes me a little bit different is that I don't look at a resume for does this person have 5 years or 10 years of surgical experience? Have they been in the OR before? Have they done certain procedures before? What I'm looking for really is who they are on the inside. What is their personality? How are they going to fit with our team? Do they have the inner workings to be able to grow and expand? And when you hire for that, then everything else falls into place. It's not like, you don't want someone who's coming in from scratch and doesn't know anything, but I would rather have someone who doesn't have the experience and who's willing and able to learn, and then mold them where I'd like to go, as opposed to someone who may already be very fixed and firm in what they think a plastic surgery practice should look like, should work like, and then it's harder to get them moving in the direction you'd like them to be.
And how do you test for those skills?
Ooh, well, we learned the hard way, Tanya and I and the rest of the team, we learned the hard way that it wasn't just a one interview kind of thing. We would look at their resume, yes, and we'd kind of, pick there, but then we would have people come in and they would meet the entire team all at once. And so it was almost a group interview to begin with. And some of us would be listening while another was asking a question, and we just saw how they actually interacted with everyone else in the group. That had a huge portion of to do. And you pick up a lot of things that way. So that group interview thing was very, very helpful. That we learned that. And then we would try them out. We'd have them come in and see how they thought, how they responded to a particular incident or a protocol or something. We'd say if someone came in with this problem, what would you say? What would you do? And we just listened more again, not for what we could teach them, but for what they already were and knew on the inside.
I love that. I work with a lot of executives and I teach them not to hire based on somebody who's memorized the route and knows how to get there, but somebody who can navigate because the route's going to blow up
Ex-
and you have to go around. And experience can cover up lack of skill if you're not careful. Yeah, I still resorted to my intuition of, oh, in plastic surgery, you must hire people that know plastic surgery. And you blew me away when you said, no, actually, that's not how you operate. And so
Right.
I really like that story. Now, Tanya, you have to deal with Dr. Susan's decisions, with the people that she brings onto the team. And so talk to me a little bit about what that looks like in the real world, on the ground, in the OR, dealing with patients. If you have people that have context on, let's say, maybe the medical world, but not aesthetics specifically, how did that actually play out?
I would say to that she cultivated an environment where you could just be yourself. And so it was easy to teach others, the culture that she wanted, the hard work and practice, the exceptional patient care, patient contact, and it became easy because we have the right personality tune to be able to perform the best we could.
Now, saying you let people be themselves at work and bringing that collaboration is easy on paper. It's hard to do. Can you maybe bring up a couple examples of behaviors at the office or from Dr. Susan that made that possible?
Yeah, she would let us take lead on some projects. Like this is many years ago, so not everything was electronic at that time. So we would actually make scrapbooks to show patients before and afters. It wasn't all digital like it is now. And so she would just allow us to use our creativity. That would be one example to show off her amazing work. And she would give us praise and kind of feed into you just being the best that you could be. And we would stay late and work long hours and whatever we needed to do to get things done for her.
And Dr. Susan, is this something that came natural to you? Is there something you learned over time? What was that like leading a practice with a lot of different personalities, a lot of different pressures?
It definitely was something I learned over time. One of the things that I realized that after I left New York City, so I left New York after 9/11 and came to a very small town in Northeast North Carolina. And it wasn't a matter of choosing for plastic surgery expertise because nobody had plastic surgery expertise. I was the first one there in the area. So, we started with that. And as far as the other, it was such a big undertaking to build a practice from scratch, to be with people who didn't know, to be training both people in the operating room and in my office how to work in a plastic surgery clinic. I couldn't do everything, and I was raising my kids at that time. I had young ones at that point. So there was no way that I could be everybody and everything, and I had to learn to delegate, probably sooner than I would have wanted to, but there was just no way that I could do it any other way. And so I delegated, and as people grew, their output became more and more what I liked and loved, and then I realized this is the way to grow and to scale. So that's what I brought with me when we went to Kansas.
And you mentioned moving out of New York, 9/11. You've had some big changes in your life. You've had some
Yeah.
big career arcs in your life. You spent
Yes.
17 years in professional ballet. Then you went to medical school. You became a surgeon. And now you're a lifestyle coach, a performance coach. So, with each of those reinventions, if you will, that's a big change. Can you take us to the one where you shifted from ballet to going to medical school?
I always tell the story that I dancing was my second idea of what to do. I knew I wanted to be a doctor when I was 6 years old. I
Okay.
used to get sick a lot, and now this is totally an aside. Now in functional health, lifestyle health, I understand why I was getting sick so often. But at the time, I didn't know. We didn't know. I saw my pediatrician a lot, and I fell in love with him. I thought he was like the coolest person in the world, and I told him at 6 years old that I was going to be a doctor someday. And he said, okay, when you're ready, you come back and you let me know. Well, 20 plus years later, after my dancing career, and I stopped, it was got to the point where dancing wasn't fun anymore. I started looking back into that first love. I decided to apply and I went back. He not only remembered me, but he wrote me a letter, and I know that letter had a lot to do with me getting into medical school. So it seems like it was a total about face, but it was really something that had been in my heart from when I was a little girl. That was that change, and I went to medical school, and like you said, I tell people it was a lot easier to be in medical school than it was to dance. Dancing was physically challenging, it was mentally challenging. There was all of that performance, and it was such a wonderful thing just to be able to sit in a class and relax, and all I had to do was memorize stuff. So, medical school was a lot simpler than dancing, believe it or not. People don't believe me often.
And when you went from surgery to your current work, being a lifestyle
Yes.
coach, being a performance coach, what was that change like? How did you make that decision? Was it all at once? Is it over time? Who did you talk to navigate that?
Yeah. Ooh, definitely over time. And the issue, and Tanya can chime in on this, the issue was I wasn't taking care of myself. We were very, very busy. We had surgeries all day and operating, and then I was still being mom in the evenings. And I ended up in the intensive care unit 3 times in the space of a year. I had 3 blood clots. 2 of them went to my lungs, pulmonary emboli. The third time, I almost didn't make it out of the hospital. And that third time, I had to stop and say, this is not working. What I'm doing is not working. Not only does it not work for me, doesn't work for my family, doesn't work for my team, because what am I teaching them? If you remember, Tanya, I had a couch that used to be in my office, and we bought the couch and put it next to the exam room because I didn't have enough energy to walk down the hall in between patients. That's what I was doing. And I finally said, okay, this has got to change. Um, I went to traditional medicine initially. They tried to put me on high dose steroids, and all that did was make me really dizzy. And I finally said, okay, let me find a different way. And that's when I first found my functional medicine provider who looked at what was going on and a lot of different things, gut health, cortisol, all of the things that we're now teaching other people. And literally within a few months, I started changing and feeling better. And I never looked back.
Dr. Susan, when you're working with clients now and you're
Mhm,
helping them through
mhm.
the various things that they're dealing with, how do you help them think about finding their energy, really learning from some of the things that you've learned going through your reinvention and bringing it out in other folks? What do you coach them to watch out for? What do you coach them to listen to in terms of their own
Mhm, mhm.
intuition?
Ooh, so much in that. The very first thing that I do is I try to have them stop looking at things like a condition as this is me. I am diabetes, or I have, high blood pressure, or this is me, as opposed to saying, okay, what are the forces? What are the root causes of what is bringing this about in your life? So if they do have diabetes or high blood pressure or an autoimmune condition, is it their stress levels? Looking down at rather than the trees on the leaves on the tree, which may be brown, and if you're just giving them medicine, all you're doing is painting those leaves green. Okay, they look better, but they're not any better down in the roots. So if we look at the roots, is their stress, their nutrition, their sleep, their hormones, even their personal relationships, all of these things combined to make us either healthier or not. And that's the first thing that I start to bring to everyone that I'm working with, because they have to understand that it's not just have an ill, take a pill. It's more, let's figure out what's really going on and fix that. Then the next step that we take people through is what I call the L3 method: listen, let go, and live. So listen to what your body's telling you. So even if everybody, all of the experts are telling you everything's fine, if you don't feel right, something's not right. Listen, let go of whatever isn't serving you. And then finally, it's living your own version of thriving, no matter what that is. Don't let anybody else tell you what's right for you.
Yeah, that hits deep where I think I've always been very good at listening, taking in all the inputs, listening to myself, being an independent thinker, but letting go and living are
Then goes
things I've
hard.
been working on, iterating on. I've actually letting go has been my theme for the year of I'm a perfectionist and trying to get that out of the way. In some ways, it really helps me. That's some of the quality of the work I create, but in some ways, it just gets in the way. And just working
Yes,
on sort of letting go of things that don't have to be perfect and just push and just go. And it's hard. It's a big shift to make.
it is. And when you're in a field like cosmetics or aesthetics or plastic surgery or even what I'm doing now, you want to be perfect. You don't want to have those errors, and but sometimes you have to let go. You have to let go of putting yourself on that, in such a tough place to work.
So think about this human psychology, Tanya. I have never worked in the medical field, but I've spent a lot of time with medical professionals. And one of the things I always admire about nurse practitioners and nurses is that they have this gentleness meets firmness balance where they can sit there and have empathy and listen and let a patient let it all out and not interrupt and not tell them they're wrong and just really truly listen. But then also at the end, grab them by the hand and say, look, this is what we're going to do, and then lead them. And that patient reads the room like you're not going to take no for an answer and they're going to go with you. And there's an art to that. And I would love to hear you talk a little bit about like how you see that in practice and how that psychology comes through in the work that you do. Is that something you just learn being in the field? Do you think nurses are hired for that skill ahead of time? How does that come about? I think a lot of leaders could learn from that.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of learned in school as well as cultivated on the job for sure. But just developing that trust relationship at an initial encounter with a patient and validating them is huge, and they will trust you. Like, okay, we're going to do these things. Like, you are going to have your head on right, and you are going to make good choices for yourself so that you feel better, because that's why you're here today, and it's my job to help guide you and promote you and energize you to be able to take the steps in order to do that, and help when you're guiding them, help them understand the why of what we're doing, and that it's a process. Sometimes it's, a slam dunk very quickly. And sometimes it's a rocky process. I've had health issues that we try to be tough and we don't really talk about, and we swipe them under the rug, and we're strong and we're, medical professionals. But when you are looking at the outside in, there are things that you are dealing with or conquering or working to clear those kind of things to be the best that you can be to help other people. It's not like you're just on this journey and you're better and better and better. There are little humps in the road and little things
Right.
that change that focus.
It's never
So yeah,
linear.
I've had a few of
Yes,
those
yeah,
little humps in the road. Yeah.
yeah.
What's an example of something you think you more brought to the table naturally, and what's something you really had to learn through the craft of coming to work every day and practicing?
Well, something that I've really had to learn is that you can't help everyone. And so that is something that
Ooh,
with deep in your heart, you want to help everyone, you want to make people better. That there are those patients where you just have to be like, I did everything in my power to try to help them. And some of them don't listen, some of them don't want to get better, some of them are stuck mentally, like he said, within their own illness, and they can't change their thinking to get better. And so I think those are probably the hardest patients for me to get over. But the more I've been doing it, the more I understand that you just have to let those go and keep working with the ones that you are helping.
and how did you learn to handle that?
I guess just with failure and time and perseverance.
Speaking of hard work and showing up every day, Dr. Susan, there's a few common threads that I see from the outside through your different career arcs in ballet and surgery and performance coaching. And one is discipline and craft of showing up every single day to get 1/10% better. And I grew up in a small town, New Hampshire, driving pickup trucks. I'm the farthest thing from a Manhattan, professional dancer you can get. But I have a lot of respect for any craft where you just have to work so hard at it to be able to participate. And ballet is certainly in that category. And so when you think about the discipline you've had to show throughout your career, how does that come into play with your current work? And how do you help other people learn that, sometimes it's just that hard work every single day to be able to make that change that they want to see happen?
Yeah, it's as I was saying before, the comparison between medical school and dancing was there just was no comparison as far as how difficult it was and how disciplined you had to be. And so for me, I think I came in with a leg up. So even though I was older than most of the other people in the medical school, I also had a lot more discipline. And so it was easier for me. And then I took that with me, that not only the discipline, but the whole show must go on with me as I went into surgery and then as I go into what I'm doing now. So even now, my family sometimes has to kind of come and give me a gentle nudge to get off the computer and take a break because I'm so I'm so enthralled with what I can do and the changes that I can make in people's lives and in companies' lives that, I don't want to stop. But if you don't, as as I have learned the hard way, eventually your body tells you you have to. So that whole discipline I've taken with me in each of my careers, and it's just made life much, much easier as we go along.
Families are good reminders to enjoy
Are
life
they
because they
are
won't let you get away with
they
it. And then one other common thread that I see is this aspect of performance. where in ballet you're performing on a stage, in surgery you're performing in a way in the operating room, and now there is an element of performance to what you do, inspiring and energizing other people and leaders, but also teaching them how to bring themselves in a performance way to lead their teams. And I don't mean performance in the way of bringing something forward that isn't, but just the idea of how you show up, your energy, your inspiration. And so, how do you think about performance for your clients and how it impacts them in their life?
That's actually how I get them to understand what I can give to them. Because let's be honest, nobody wants to know I should eat this and not eat that, and I should get better sleep or I should work out. We all either know it or don't want to hear it or the combination of both. But when you tell them that, when you do these things, your productivity is going to increase by 20, 30, 40%. You're going to sleep better, you're going to have a better night's sleep. You're going to wake up more rested. When you show them what the results are, what the performance is. When you're a company, if you're heading a company, if you're the engine of that company, if you're exhausted, where's your company going? If you're feeling, full of energy and vital and at the top of your game, your company's going to go in the right direction. So it's really a matter of showing them what the changes result in, not so much what the changes are.
And there's a lot of storytelling in that you're really hitting on. How do you bring the story
Mhm.
to people in a way that can resonate?
Exactly, exactly. And I love those, just the people that I work with and you know, just hearing one person's story, and how they changed and how not only did they change, but either their company changed or their family changed because they saw them getting better and feeling better and being more productive, having more energy. All of these things are just make it so much easier for them, but also for me to explain and to model it for others going forward.
We talked about reinvention, your different arcs. Have you figured it all out now, or is there more reinvention still to come for Dr. Susan?
Well, the biggest reinvention now is the whole corporate wellness side,
Okay.
the executive and corporate health, because it's I've evolved from plastic surgery to lifestyle health, one-on-one, to then groups, and now I'm going and speaking to companies, to schools, to organizations, because let's be honest, one-on-one, yes, you can do a lot, and you absolutely can. But when you're talking to hundreds or thousands of people at a time, and even if you're just hitting, say, 5% of those people, what are you able to do? So that's where I am now.
And that really magnifies your impact. Is that part of what you're optimizing for?
Yes, absolutely.
And Tanya, what have you learned from being around Dr. Susan?
Well, I think that Dr. Lovelle energy is it's like infection. She just gets you motivated to just do whatever she has in store. And just her spirit, her energy, her compassion, it's contagious.
Have you ever seen the angry side of Dr. Susan? What's like when she gets
Not
mad?
not very often, and I did see it one time with one particular patient, which was well deserved. So I would say no for the most part. Very delightful and in a learning way. She would guide and help coach of how better to take care of a patient situation. But no, I mean, and which was really actually profound for a surgeon not to have that personality because most of them are very short tempered a lot of times because they have to be because they're super in high stress all the time and doing very detailed craft and so yeah I think that speaks volumes about their personality for sure.
And short and tempered are the politically correct words to use here. And
Yeah.
there are other ones that some people could as well. So, Dr. Susan, how do you think about that? Is that like, are you an outlier in the personality traits of surgeons,
Oh,
or
by
how
far.
is that
Yeah.
inherent? Do you think? Where do you get that from?
I think a lot of it is me. Yes, I mean
Mm.
that is just who I am as a person. I don't like being feeling stressed out. I don't like being confrontational, and I would rather, if I'm in the OR and something's not going right, let's be honest, I am at the head of the team. So if I start freaking out, the entire team is gonna devolve. And so, I can flip that the other way. When I was being trained in surgery, we had two surgeons, and one of them was very much the throw stuff and just what you think of as a normal surgeon, and then the other was like just always calm. You could never ruffle him. And I looked at that and I said, okay, that's who I'm going to follow. That's who I can be in the operating room because his results were always great. The other guy may be up, maybe down, but the one who was always calm, not only did everyone love him, but his patients did, and they always did the best. So.
I've met a lot of surgeons. I think you've smiled more in this session than some of them do in a year.
Yes, probably.
Dr. Susan, what have you learned from being around Tonya?
The main thing from that is that you can look really sweet on the outside, but when you are tough on the inside, your patients know what to do. And she always has had that from day one.
I talk a lot about 1-2 punches these days, where you really, everything's a dichotomy in leadership, and you really need multiple things that you balance and bring together. And you can beat everybody, or you can always, be a pushover, but it's really being able to have both of those sides and use them in the right combination that's magical and also really hard. You need to have good judgment and you need to have human connection. And if you have those things are timeless.
Yes, absolutely.
A lot of fantastic stories here, and how you get the right people on the team, how you reinvent yourself, something a lot of people are going through right now, how you manage through the psychology of that, how you empower other people, how you have a big impact. This has had a big impact on me. I really appreciate your time. It was a privilege speaking to both of you. Thank you for joining me on the show.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you so much.
I enjoyed that conversation. I hope you did as well. Here are a few of my favorite takeaways. 1, hire for skills over experience. This is so important. It's hard to do, but it makes a huge difference when you're able to do it in your company, in your organization. Number 2, we can reinvent ourselves. We have it in us to do entirely different jobs, entirely different things. With AI hitting, this is more important than ever, but we have underlying fundamental skills. We just have to make it happen. And so believe in yourself and it will come true. And then listen and let go. You heard this from Dr. Susan. I think this is a powerful lesson. I'm particularly working on letting go as a part of my self-coaching this year. And the final one here, balance, empathy, and assertiveness. You heard Dr. Susan explain how Tonya is really nice on the exterior, but she's firm on the inside when she needs to be. And balancing that empathy and that assertiveness, wow, that can take you a long way in life. And it really is about these dichotomies in leadership when we're balancing multiple things and putting them together to accomplish something that otherwise us or the team never would have been able to do. And so I really hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please give it a 5-star review and share it with a friend. It greatly helps the show, and it also helps other people find the content and benefit from it. Until next time, enjoy the ride.